archetype of its own. Am I discovering something right now? Right? It's just something really excited about it.
Yeah. Mandangu wrote a really interesting article on Board Game Geek about underrated sort of cards that he thought of in the meta, and we're really going to miss him in this community, but that's another discussion. But he was writing about that card, and we don't have set 2 physical distribution in Australia here yet. We're trying to get that sorted out. But I bought one digital booster pack of set 2, and it had that card in it. And it's a really nice deck. It's got your Forge Plate Yeti, Spirit Forge Sentinel, and some really good robot targets. And I've been playing with that and the Seer Mecha Mage on the Tempe side and bringing him back as kind of like the prime candidate, just with the fact that it's a spell that brings a creature back that procs off a spell. And the idea of having 2 of those to be able to keep recurring Mecha Mage is just so exciting to me. So thank you for putting that up in the sale. I'm excited to get that one.
I could talk to you about that specific deck, and like, because I don't specifically have a magnetic field with the Forge Plate Yeti, because I do think that's probably the strongest thing you can be doing on the Aloyan side. So anyways, I could talk to you probably all night about that specific, which is, again, like another just exciting thing about this game and where it stands right now is like that deck opens up these things that a normal person can't do because they don't have it in their collection, right? Like you get to feel special that you have something. You get to build a deck archetype that like people don't actually have access. Anyways, it's just, to me, I guess to come full circle on your question, that's really what's, I think, still so exciting about this game is you can open a deck tomorrow and get access to do something that people don't even know about right now.
Yeah. We had someone in the community who never played the game that much, who was the person that had the Mystical Stitcher in their collection. They didn't know that the whole time. They were just casual, asking a rules question about it, and it sparked this massive bidding war for this deck. It's interesting where these decks live and how they come back into the community. To move on to my next point, is there anything that concerns you about the state of the game right now?
I mean, there's a handful of kind of hot topics in the community right now. I think you and Sam last week talked a little bit about the Web3 stuff. Yep. I would say the Web3 probably concerns me a little bit. It's a much larger conversation, and I would say I'm kind of in a wait and see mode. I would say I'm not really excited about it, but I'm not like terrified of it either. It's just kind of like, I don't know if it's right for the game. But actually, what I think concerns me more is the rate at which we seem to be getting new folks into the community is probably not as high as I would like to see it. And I think the general marketing from Stoneblade has been maybe either non-existent or not as effective as I would have hoped it to be, just because the game, I think the product is great, right? And at the end of the day, you can have an amazing product, and if people don't know about it, people don't understand how to interact with it, it just doesn't get found, right? And so that's probably my biggest concern about the game and the community right now.
And it's hard too, right? We're in the golden age again, I guess, of CCGs, TCGs. There's so many new ones coming out every month, every week. How do we help to make sure that other people are hearing about this game? Yeah, because most of the people I introduce it to here in Australia, especially, never heard of it before. So that's a big challenge for anybody, any size organization in this day. But it's something I'd like to see too, help us get back on track with new player growth and hearing about the game.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't have answers either, because I do know early on, like they did do a significant amount. They got some of the biggest CCG YouTubers to do how to plays. I remember early on there was a big, like, it was advertised through distribution as well as on multiple like social media groups that I had seen, where they were going to do this big Twitch stream with Richard Garfield and Justin Gary and hype the game. And, those are two big names. I mean, Richard Garfield is if it's a Magic stream, he can pull in, 4,000 or 5,000 people on his name alone, right? I remember I joined the stream and there was like 30 people there. And I remember thinking like it was well published. Like I saw it, I got here, it was a big name. So I don't have a lot of answers, because I do feel like there must be something about the IP or the world building or whatever it is that seems to like not get, really flashy or hype to bring in folks. So I actually don't have a lot of answers, because I feel like Stoneblade has actually done a lot of the things that off the top of my head is like, well, get Richard Garfield to join a stream. Oh, they did that, like, okay, well, get some of these big Magic influencers to, do a how to play. Well, they did that, right? Like all the things I could check the box on, they've done, right? And it hasn't drawn in as large as a community as I would expect. So I don't have a lot of answers, but that's definitely a concern I have.
Totally agree. Let's move on to part 3. So this part is called Relationship Test. So this is the lightning round, which I know some people like in podcasts, so I've appropriated it for myself. So I'm going to drop a phrase or a couple of words here, and I haven't prepared you on any of these, but I'm just interested in your gut reaction, like a Rorschach test, first thing that comes to your mind when I say this phrase. So here we go. Favorite card?
Oh, my gut reaction is probably Zimus. And that's probably just because the very first time I played, he got the level 3 on the board. And I remember thinking, how do you beat this card? This card, is this card OP? And you don't see a lot of people play him anymore, but he's just always been a kind of a pet card of mine.
I love any card that has different art on all 3 levels, and seeing him grow to this massive shadow warrior is just so cool. Every game I get to do it. All right, let's move on. Most hated card.
Most hated card.
Could be something you hate playing against or something you hate seeing in a deck list.
Yeah, I've actually been playing it recently. It's probably Sparking Omni. Mostly because I have tried to make like some double rallying decks work where you're spitting out a ton of gizmos and trying to get rallying, and that 2 damage from the Sparking Omni killing my gizmos, like they drop it off Forge, snipe one, and then on Forge it flips to them and they snipe another one, has got to be like one of the most like frustrating experiences. And then it's got this huge body that also shows up later. It's a 1/7, I think, and then like a 4/10, or anyways, it's got a big body, so it's hard to remove. So it's a card that has like been a thorn in my side several times. Although the nice thing is there's only like 100 of them out there, so you actually don't see them that often.
That's nice. All right, let's roll straight into favorite modifier. And it can be from any set that you see on a card.
Oh, it's got to be rallying.
Yeah,
it's got to be rallying.
Super powerful. For anyone who is not familiar with the terms, maybe a newer player of the game, can you let them know what rallying does?
Yeah, so rallying is when that creature replaces a creature. All creatures, including the rallying creature, get +2/+2 at level 1. And then I think it goes to +3/+3 and then +4/+4 at the later level. So the crazy thing is the first level is actually like one of the strongest stat boosts you can get, because if you've got a full line or a mostly full line, it's huge. And the big thing about lane combat is that usually people are lining up things exactly to kill your guy or to kill your guy and have a little bit left over so that you got to put a body in front of an next round. And rallying off Forge with like a full lane and you just flip all the combat math in your favor has got to be one of the best feelings.
Yeah. I mean, equivalent to, doesn't Nova have a Forgeborn ability that's +3/3, depending on what stack it is to all? It's a hugely powerful part of the game to keep all your creatures alive and attacking more. And there's just not enough removal in the game for that many big bodies if you can fill a whole board with them.
Yep. And when you're dropping it on a gizmo,
stacks on stacks.
Best feeling.
Most hated modifier, thing you hate to see in a deck list.
If it's my deck list, I hate it's the one I've always seen is that rare modifier. I think it's Hemotophagic. Mm-hmm. It's one that I almost never use, and it's a rare modifier, and I'm almost always like, oh, what if that would have been shambling, or what if that would, and I think I've used it like, I don't know, maybe like 3 times out of, I had a deck that had, I think 2 of them or something that I really liked playing, and every time I played it, I'd get the trigger on the online. It's just like, nope, not doing that thing, so that's probably my least favorite that I've seen.
Agreed. Favorite artwork, something that really speaks to you or that you've fallen in love with over the years.
Oh, okay. It's probably Zimus. It's probably the same. Like I agree. The seeing him kind of slowly grow and develop into his level 3 undying self is probably the one that comes to mind. Gut reaction. That's
a great story that it tells visually. Artwork you hate the most, something that you don't like.
So one of my other pet cards that I really like is Duplication Dome. And the artwork on that card is not as exciting. It's just like a giant dark ball.
I was staring at it because one of the other decks I bought off you has the Betrayer duplication dome in it, and I was staring at it today because we don't have set 2 in Australia, not really familiar with it. I thought the same thing. I just kept looking at it and going, I like this, but I don't know what it is that I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what a duplication dome would be, like thematically.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's in the lore somewhere, but anyways, not exciting art.
This is going to be really hard for someone like you, but here's the question I've written anyway. Favorite half deck in your entire collection?
Yeah, it is tough. So I technically had and still do have a small collection that is not in the Great Viking Games inventory. That is actually on the account that my son plays on now. So if you ever run into GVG Draft, that's usually him. And there was a Betrayer Drix in there that a GVG has never opened. And I've never had one to sell, but I have played that deck a handful of times. It's got a couple pieces like the I forget the name. Is it the Warhound or the red creature that likes to replace and deal face damage or creature damage? Playing that with another Drix has been just like a pet project. I don't think it's super competitive. I think it can be maybe like tier 2 and it can pop off, here and there, but it's struggled to beat some of the just like really grindy decks.
Favorite Betrayer that you've either opened or that you play regularly?
Okay, it probably would be Drix, but because I just used that as an example, the second one is probably the Magnetic Field. I've probably played that 25 times on the app. I've never brought it to a tournament or anything, but I played it on the app with 10 different decks to just see how strong this is, what can it do, what its power level is. And it's just mostly just because it's every time I play it, people will be like, whoa, cool deck.
Yeah.
They've never seen it before. So they're just like, whoa, what are you doing over there? Cause they see the one and then they see the other one, and you can do all these shenanigans where you're one brings back the other one, anyways, it's really fun.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for selling it to me. All right, well, let's go into our final segment, which is called Your Future Together. All right, so typical relationship question you might get at some point in the future. Where do you see this relationship going in 2 to 5 years?
I'm in it for the long haul. If they're in it for the long haul, I think it's kind of one of those things where I don't think I never committed to this game really. I mean, we did buy a lot of product and we still have a lot of product. And so I'm going to be connected to this game to some degree over the course of whatever, the next year or two at least, I would imagine. But that doesn't mean I would have to play it, right? And that's kind of from my perspective, I have kind of 2 relationships. I have the player relationship and I have the GVG or kind of economic relationship to this game. And I would say I probably first started as a player, and then I kind of leveled off a bit and got really into the economic. And then I would say in doing that, I think got really excited about playing again. And I'm now playing more than I ever have before. I'm joining all the tournaments. I'm playing in all the sealed events. And so I would say right now, I've probably never been more into SolForge than I am right now at this moment in time, just as far as having fun with the game. But in 2 years, I haven't stuck with a lot of games that long. So I think it's hard for me to say I'll be here playing SolForge, but I think if you had asked me 2 years ago, I'd have been like, oh yeah, I mean, this was a game I was just going to play a little bit and put on the shelf, and here I am 2 years later, right? So I think there's definitely a staying power with this one that I could expect that I will definitely be here in some form or fashion in a couple years.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting I've listened to a lot of Justin Gary podcasts and him on different ones talking about his games. I've had experience with Fantasy Flight games before and falling in love with them and then watching them self-destruct 2-3 years on and sort of being a sad refugee, shuffling on to the next game, So I do admire a game company that does want to invest in a game long-term. And I'm hopeful that this is the game that we're going to get that. And he certainly said as much on some of the podcasts he's done with Team Covenant and some of his own podcasts. So yeah, I'm really hopeful But glad to know that others are as well. Last but not least, just before we finish up, any shout outs or things you'd like to plug? I know there's a sale on in the marketplace at the moment that people should know about, or anything else you want to talk to?
Yeah, if you haven't gone out and checked SolForgeFusionDecks.com, definitely